All right, part two, day one in prison. If you haven't checked out the first part, I recommend doing that. I'm sitting in a holding cell. I've turned myself in and uh, just feeling strange sitting with an older fellow named Nick. A woman traipsed up and down the hallway, unleashing violent sneezes. She was a morbidly obese white woman stuffed into a guard's uniform, and we watched her through the windows of the holding cell. Her outbursts came in twos and threes, and I thought of an elephant shrieking at the sight of a mouse. Our faces, pressed to the glass, were met with a frowning man who said, "Get the fuck back." He opened the door and made Nick and me go to some offices down the hallway where folks never looked up from their clipboards as they asked us questions, not waiting long for the answers. A physician's assistant stabbed our arms to see if we had tuberculosis, and a counselor asked as if we were sexual predators or had ever testified in a criminal trial. They found us both fit to serve our sentences at the camp. Then they sent us back to the holding cell to wait with a couple of other unfortunates. The four of us stared at our feet for a while, with our flu masks on our faces. Wearing white t-shirts tucked into green pants with elastic waistbands and slippers, we gazed around the chamber, adjusting our weight on the cold concrete bench, twiddling our thumbs, releasing sighs of boredom. No conversations in case any of us were murderous psychopaths with short fuses. I felt pretty safe around Nick. He seemed old and tired. In fact, I probably looked like the scariest of the bunch with my unshaven face. They were all clean cut by comparison. One fellow looked about my age, with dark curly hair, a clear complexion, and he didn't have the mannerisms of a man who spent years sucking on the end of a meth pipe. The other fellow was mostly bald and heavy-set, with the sad eyes of a broken soul. He looked at least 20 years older than me. A guard opened the door. "Get out." We lined up in the hallway, while another guard stretched our arms behind our backs and secured them with handcuffs. "Now listen up," the guard said. "Y'all gonna be getting down to the camp, but you go to the hole for now. Be about a week. To make sure you don't get everybody sick. Now follow me." I kept my head down as they led us through the main penitentiary, but my eyeballs darted around the legendary Colossus. Dozens of floors held hundreds of cells, and they were stacked on top of each other in a circular pattern like a honeycomb in hell. A prison scene from a century of movies. It gave me a cold feeling of awe and horror. Even a privilege to stand in such a monument of misery. It was surreal, almost like I was just watching a movie. The strongest sensation of all was gratitude that we were just passing through, practically tourists. The reason the pitiable convicts behind the bars stared at us with a mixture of envy and hatred. Some would remain in those cages for 20, 30, or 50 more years. Many would die, but not for decades. Such prisoners abhor campers like the four of us. I didn't stare back at them, not directly. The thick walls of Lincolnwood isolate a small city with many brick buildings, and we left the main penitentiary and marched across the lawn to our destination, the hole. We entered and descended the stairs into the catacombs, staring straight ahead in silence as we kept in a single file line, handcuffs on our wrists and masks on our mouths. I'd never felt so helpless and uncomfortable, but I fought against the panic in my mind and the insurrection in my innards. The guards stuck us in a much smaller holding cell and walked away without telling us how long we would stand there, while the cuffs cut red gouges into our skin. Four fully grown men in a closet with iron bars, handcuffed. There was a steel bench, large enough for two, so Nick and the fat one sat. The younger one spoke up. "My name is Alan, by the way. I'm from Nebraska." Nick and I introduced ourselves. "I'm Ralph," the fat one said. "Romero. I'm from Wisconsin." "Two from Illinois and one from Nebraska, and they sent us all to Wyoming. Figures." "My arms are so sore," Nick said. My bowels were restless. It was all I could do to be friendly while my breakfast was digesting and mixing around with the gallons of alcohol in my belly, and I was almost certain that my immediate future was about to get more complicated. A guard came over 10 long minutes later and gave us a pile of orange jumpsuits, and we took our green pants after and took our green pants after he unlocked our handcuffs. We rubbed our sore wrists before we put our clothes back on, and the guard said, "Two of you would be cellies. I don't care who." Ralph pointed at me and said that we would share a cell. "It's because you have a beard, and years ago I had a beard." I didn't argue with Ralph's mystifying logic, because I was willing to go anywhere that had a toilet or a mop bucket. A desperate criminal indeed. They marched us down the gray and glum hallway and tossed us into cell 11B. The cells in the hole are about 5 feet wide and around 15 feet long, and they contained a set of bunk beds, a steel sink, a steel toilet, and a moldy shower. Ralph was older, taller, and fatter than I, so he got the bottom bunk. He lay on the thin mattress, compressing it from 2 inches to about a quarter-inch, folding his arms and closed his eyes. As I sat on the seatless toilet and gave our tiny home a loathsome christening. Sorry. I was embarrassed and scanned the room for hidden toilet paper. "Don't be sorry. It's perfectly natural to—" Crap! I cut Ralph off with another violent thunderclap, followed by a wave of swamp gas fit to gag a buzzard. "Woo! On second thought, that's not natural, my friend." Ralph laughed and pulled his t-shirt up over his nose. I wanted to laugh too, but couldn't squeeze out a chuckle. And there I was, the Benjamin Hughes. I'd started my prison sentence not from a position of strength, but severe compromise and apology. Thank you all. Stick around for part 3.